oh my gosh, I have learned so much about myself that I wasn't even aware of. And it's a lifelong journey, it's not like one and done. But those are like the three best tips that I could give, like meditation, journaling, and working with a therapist or coach.
Oh, I gotta go. I've been working, told them please don't hit my phone. I'm in my zone, bruh, just leave me alone. Was on the road, but I swear I'm coming home. Now the drinks on me, I think we need a toast. See, I did it for me. Now my old friends calling, told them nothing's for free. Told me time is money, dog, swear I paid all my fees. I was starving for this game, now my family can eat.
Hey everyone, welcome to another Cup of Nurses episode here with your hosts, Peter and Matt. Thank you everyone for taking time and tuning in. If you're new here, welcome. This is a show that is straight business. We don't gloss over any tough subjects. And those that are reoccurring listeners, thank you for always tuning in and hanging out with us. We appreciate your time. And those that are listening, find value in this podcast, go ahead and smack the 5 stars, give it a like, subscribe, share it with your loved ones. This is how the show gets downloads, ranks, and this is what ultimately motivates us to keep on producing this high quality content. So share the love. We're trying to change the world. We're nurses on a mission here. For anything conscious related, check out our sister website, frontlinewarriors.com. A lot of cool conscious wellness, mindfulness blogs there. And we have a lot of nursing debriefments, the day in the life. Check out our site, our YouTube channel. We're growing and the content is only expanding. And this project that's soon to be, prontohealth.com, we're trying to innovate and revolutionize the way healthcare gets provided. And I'm super, super pumped about this project, what it's going to be. A lot of hard work, a lot of great minds behind it. What's up, Pete?
Another great day here in San Diego, man. But today we have a special guest. Her name is Crystal Grant. Crystal Grant is a CRNA and also the CEO of Superscript Wellness and also an author of several books. She has worked in healthcare for over 20 years and now coaches nurses and CRNAs on how to overcome imposter syndrome. She has a new book coming out, A CRNA's Guide to Overcoming Imposter Syndrome. Crystal also has her own line of vitamin gummy bears. Tune in as we talk about imposter syndrome and ways to overcome it and get it out of your mind. Thank you so much for being here, Crystal. Can you give us a little bit of background about yourself and how you ended up to be where you are today?
Well, thank you for having me again. So my name is Crystal Grant. I am a registered nurse. I've been a registered nurse for 20 years this coming May. And then I hold a Master's of Science in Nurse Anesthesia from Rutgers University. So I've been a CRNA for 9 years. That's my daytime stuff, that's my 9 to 5. Behind the scenes, I am also the CEO of Superscript Wellness, which is my health and wellness business. I created a line of gummy vitamins. My first gummy vitamin was for the immune system, and that came out last April. We rebranded and decided to add 3 additional products. And I have a hair, skin, and nail gummy. I have a adult and children's multivitamin. And we just actually partnered with Walmart.com. So all 4 of my gummies are available on there. And then, as if that's not enough, I'm also an author. My first book was called Acceptance Granted. That was written in 2019. It's available on Amazon. And then I wrote the Super CRNA series. Mm-hmm. And my next book, which is coming out next week, is about a guide on beating imposter syndrome. Mm-hmm. As somebody who has dealt with imposter syndrome, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about it, I'm often asked how I kind of transformed my life and became this individual that we now see on social media. And so I was like, what better way than to write a book about it? So I'm actually coaching individuals as well who are interested in beating their imposter syndrome and living their best lives. So I've got my hands in many different jars.
Mm-hmm. That's amazing how you just took this all upon yourself. So just to unpack this question, and we're just talking about imposter syndrome, do you feel like you use it towards your benefit to achieve you have everything today? Or maybe that wasn't your goal initially, but as you progressed to being a CRNA and then took on the side hustles to writing books to becoming who you are, did you feel like the imposter syndrome was your benefit?
So, connecting the dots going backwards, I can probably say yes, it was to my benefit. And somebody may say, well, how is that beneficial? Well, it's beneficial because, I'm able to now show up in front of audiences and do things like podcasts in order to spread the knowledge about it and educate others about it who may be going through it and not even realize, hey, that's me. I'm able to show up on social media. And so for many different reasons, yes, I think it was beneficial, although I didn't at the time know that, when I started doing all the work on myself.
I feel like a lot of nurses get imposter syndrome after graduating nursing school and getting their first nursing job. Because when I like reflect back on when you and I were like 21, 22 years old when we came out of nursing school, got our first nursing job, I feel like we definitely had some imposter syndrome because when we like took a step back from what we accomplished and everything and looked at it from like a bird's eye view, we were on a different path than a lot of our friends were. And there was definitely at times when I was at work or doing things that I felt like I shouldn't be here because like this wasn't almost expected of me. And you're never comfortable in that feeling because you feel like you're like an outcast and you're not really supposed to be in that role that you're filling. So what are some like thoughts that go through your head when you had imposter syndrome?
Oh gosh. Well, I'll just say this, in doing all my research about it, 80% of individuals actually have had some type of imposter syndrome at some point in their lives. It's mostly in the professional world. So you saying, as a new nurse, you experience imposter syndrome, that actually makes sense. Over 40% of women of color face imposter syndrome the most. And I think for me, same thing. When I graduated nursing school teaches you the fundamentals of how to pass the boards, right? It doesn't really teach you how to be a nurse. So then you get out and you are now, let's say you think, well, I should know this, like I should know everything, and you shouldn't because you don't know how to be a nurse yet. Like there's a learning curve. And I think if you are an individual who is especially hard on yourself, like I was, you can really start getting into your head, and which just makes things even worse. And it's like a spiral, right? Because you think you should know it, you think you're not good enough. It looks like everybody else is picking up things better when most of the time they're just as scared and don't know it either, So they're kind of faking it till they make it. And so it can be a very isolating period. I know I felt really isolated. I felt very alone. My transcript said one thing, I'm this 3.99 summa cum laude grad, but in the med-surg ICU, I'm like, how do you connect the secondary IV tubing, and does this go higher or lower? Like, just the things we need to learn as a new nurse. So actually I struggled for a long time with imposter syndrome when it came time to applying to CRNA programs. I didn't think I was smart enough. I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I had enough ICU experience. And, that's when I began travel nursing back in the early 2000s, and just kind of stepped away from my dreams. So imposter syndrome can have you feeling so many different emotions: isolation, feeling like a fraud, feeling like a failure, just feeling like, okay, I'll go this route instead because this route isn't what I'm supposed to do, and you haven't even tried that route. So there's a ton of different emotions that can come up with imposter syndrome.
Is it because you have a need for being so perfect? Just like you said, it happens in the professional realm. So the lack of you not knowing this new skill set you're going for, you're completely just feeling the lack of confidence and you feel powerlessness?
Yeah. Yeah. There's actually, the more research I've done for my book, I found that there's several different types of imposters, if you will. And the perfectionist is one of them. The perfectionist feels like every single duck has to be in a row. It has to be at the right time, at the right moment, at the right date, like it cannot launch until everything is perfect. And what do we know about perfection? It doesn't exist. So, if you have these beliefs in your subconscious, I'll just say, um, that perfection is the only way you can pull the trigger, then you won't ever pull the trigger because it's never going to be perfect.
Mm.
And so yeah, I struggled with perfectionism for a long, long time. And I won't lie and say that, oh, I've completely beat imposter syndrome. Each level that you attain in life as you elevate, imposter syndrome creeps up because you're dealing with a different level of people in your circle for each level that you grow. So, I mean, you just have to recognize it. You have to recognize that this isn't the truth. Like I do belong here. I am smart enough to be here, or else I wouldn't be here. I am going to learn, from this person because I don't know everything, and that's okay. So you have to be very gentle with yourself as you're
When
going to the next level.
when did you first discover this? When did you connect all the dots and became self-aware, and you finally put the pin on the board and said, this is imposter syndrome? Because just like you said, you go through these layers of life, but you have the same belief, and it just keeps reflecting onto relationships, friends, professional work, and you just keep not understanding what's going on because it's the belief that you're projecting reality out of.
Yeah. So I'll say I kind of, awakened within the past 5 years, after my divorce, and just not knowing who I actually was on the deep level, because I had always been striving for education, then graduate, then work, then education. Like I had never actually just sat with myself and figured out who I was as a woman.
Mm.
So I'll say within the past 5 years or so, I've been on this whole awakening, learning journey about imposter syndrome and who Crystal is.
Okay. One of our friends, and I'm sure you could relate to when I tell you this story, is she suffers from a little bit of imposter syndrome. I'm not sure if it's like the perfectionist one or which one it is, but growing up, she used to always excel in school, where she was able to go to a grade above her. But once
Mm.
she went to that grade above her, throughout her childhood and through her schooling, she would then slowly start to decline because she'd always feel like she shouldn't be there. So it affected her school performance. And then she would always like level it out. But she was always super smart, always was able to excel in certain things. But then when she got the recognition and like notoriety that comes with it, it's almost like she turned into that imposter syndrome started developing, and then slowly brought her back down. I'm pretty sure you know what that is, but
Yeah.
that's what it seemed like. And it's crazy how many people suffer from this, because it's a lot. I guarantee a lot of nurses suffer from this, a lot of healthcare professionals, and a lot of people just in general. You just don't feel like you're meant to be where you are. It's almost like things just happen to fall into place, and you don't want to really believe it.
Yes, yeah,
Mm.
that actually, and I'm sure the different types of imposter syndrome can, merge and
Mm.
things like that. But that sounds like the expert type of imposter, where it's close to the perfectionist, but the expert feels like, they have such high standards placed on themselves to be an expert.
Mm.
And so, yeah, she skips the grade because she was advanced. So she doesn't know everything for this next grade, right? But in her mind, she feels like I should know everything,
Mm.
and a lot of imposter syndrome comes from subconscious programming that was placed, within us from the time we were conceived until age 7, and we're just running on a program subconsciously and we're just absorbing everything. And so that may have been something that she saw from her parents or from a commercial on TV. But that expert, they just think they should know everything at whatever level they're at. And then they feel like the tasks that they do have that got them to that level aren't good enough. And that's when she
Mm.
starts, having the decline and kind of spiraling out.
Okay. Do you know all the different varieties of imposter syndrome out there?
So there's the perfectionist
Mm.
and the expert. There is the soloist. The soloist likes to do everything on their own. So they don't really like group projects, right? They'd rather handle everything on their own. And when they do, they're doing it because they want to be rewarded for
Mm-hmm.
doing all the work on their own. But all the while that they're doing the work on their own, they feel like um, nobody else wants to work with them, when in reality they're the ones who don't want to work with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have the natural genius. The natural genius, they, again, like the young lady you mentioned, they may just feel like they should just automatically know everything no matter what. So I'll give an example. As an SRNA, when you're in CRNA school, you're a student registered nurse anesthetist, and you have a clinical component similar to when you do clinicals in nursing school. And so you go into clinical on day one, and if you have this natural genius mentality, you may think, I should know how to run a whole anesthetic, how to put them to sleep, wake them up, get them to pack you with no problem. And it's your first day. Like, that is such a high
Mm.
standard and a lot of
Expectation.
pressure to put on yourself. But that natural genius just feels like, I should know this, I should know this, I should know this. And you may have seen even nurses, who just feel like, I should know this, I should know this, no matter what. And it's like, you don't have to know this. It's okay to say you don't know this. Let me help you,
Mm.
or let's learn it together. Um, so yeah, those are the five types.
That's what makes a dangerous nurse if that nurse is the one that doesn't ask questions because she feels she's obligated to know, feels
Yeah.
so much pressure because of her belief that she just doesn't ask the questions, creates a med air.
Especially new grads. 100%.
Yeah.
And looking at imposter syndrome during your research and writing the book, do you feel like it's something that's genetically predisposed through, just like anxiety and depression, or is it something more that's learned from your parents? Because what's interesting about that phase when you're learning in your subconscious is you don't know right from wrong, so you're just taking on the beliefs and these templates and this energy from your parents, and then just replicating into the world, and those are the filters that you put on. So do you know like a specific example of why this happens, why we get subconsciously predisposed to develop imposter syndrome?
Yeah. So in the research that I have done, and actually when I'm working with my coaching clients, a lot of the negative belief systems that we operate on are from generational stuff. So it's from that epigenetics, when our mother and father first conceived us, but it can also go back further, even further in generations, is what neuroscience is, kind of now finding out. So it may be a grandfather of a grandfather of a grandfather, right? And just because that seed was in that great great grandparent, it may have come down into our DNA as well. So it starts with whatever is in our mother's emotional field when she's pregnant with us, and the father's RNA. So whatever is on his, RNA. And those two things combined at conception are kind of when the subconscious beliefs are first formed. And so then you are born, and I think people think, well, they're a baby, they just goo goo gaga and eat and sleep. But it's like, no, that's actually when the neurons and the synapses and everything are firing and wiring like the most. That's why babies and young kids can learn five different fluent languages if you teach them, and they use it and it'll stay with them. It's more difficult for an adult, but we can as well. But that 0 to 7 age is when everything, like you said, that we run into, whether it's intentional or not, from the commercials that are played to the TV programs that are on to what we are hearing our parents say, even body language, a child is watching constantly, and so that's all programming them. And so it could have been something that was said, uh, maybe in a joking manner, but children think in absolutes. Children don't know, oh, the babysitter was joking when they said you're such a dummy, or why don't you know this. A child doesn't know that until around age 10 or so. So it could have been something as small as that little seed, and then they start showing up as, I should know this, I'm such a dummy. And then they go to first grade and the teacher asks them to read a sentence and they mess up and the kids start laughing, and so now that seed has been watered and it just grows and grows and festers on the inside.
Well, it's a crazy concept.
It's crazy to think about. And I love how you also mentioned how this all started when you were preconceived. So it's almost like the mother's energy is linking and syncing up to the nervous system, and now your body's just like a template that's reflecting all this. Very, very great perspective on all this that you just said. So let's just say somebody listening right now is having epiphany. They're like, wow, maybe I've been living with imposter syndrome in my life. What are some practical ways that someone can start today to help reverse this and start taking actionable steps on this?
Well, you can get my book once it's available, which it will be by the time this is out. And the other things you can do is you can work with a coach or a therapist. I know when I actually started on my journey 5 years ago, I did a lot of self-work on my own. And then I actually invested in a coach last year, and working with that coach was what really kind of helped peel the layers back and get to the root of where the imposter syndrome had kind of first been planted. And so, meditation, I'm huge on meditation. I meditate daily. I will say that I wasn't good at meditation. I know I get a lot of coaching clients who are like, I can't do this meditation that you sent me. And I'm like, just keep trying. It's okay. Don't force it. Your subconscious will when your subconscious is ready, it'll bring you through the entire meditation. But I was the same way. I would fall asleep during my meditations because my subconscious wasn't ready to reveal the things I needed to find out. So meditations are huge. I personally like guided meditations the best, and that's what works for me. But also journaling. Journaling is huge. There's something I've always journaled since I can remember. I still have my journals from when I was like 14. And so there's something about pen on paper that not only when you're manifesting, but it just activates the brain differently. And you'll be writing things down that you didn't even realize. So I do give certain prompts with my coaching clients and ask certain questions that'll really get them kind of reflecting and writing. And by the time we're done with my 8-week program, they're like, oh my gosh, I have learned so much about myself that I wasn't even aware of. And it's a lifelong journey, it's not like one and done. But those are like the 3 best tips that I could give, like meditation, journaling, and working with a therapist or coach.
Yeah, speaking about all this, changing your mind and stuff, neuroplasticity comes into play and comes into mind, because we talk about this a lot as well on our past episodes. Is part of your life is you learning something and getting programmed for something, and then the rest of your life is unprogramming yourself from that program that you've programmed yourself into, if that makes sense. So it's like unlearning the bad that you learned growing up almost.
You gotta unlearn to learn.
Yeah. And that's where neuroplasticity comes into play, because that's our brain's ability to break, you could say, certain thought processes and realign those thoughts with positive thoughts. Have you done any
Yeah.
research regarding neuroplasticity or your experience with neuroplasticity?
Oh yeah, I love neuroplasticity. I like totally geek out on that stuff. Um, Dr. Joe Dispenza is somebody that I have been listening to for a few years now, and Dr. Bruce Lipton and Dr. Tara Swartz from MIT. Actually, I can just listen to them for hours talk about neuroplasticity. And actually, during the meditations that I do with my coaching clients, they are used for that reason, and for that reprogramming, because like I mentioned before, from 0 to 7 we're in a hypnotic state. We're in a theta brainwave state hypnosis, right? And so around age 8, 9, or 10 is when we kind of wake up. Well, when we do these meditations, I get you back into that theta hypnotic state that you were in when the program first began. So that's how you go and you reprogram what was put in there in the first place. And that's when the magic happens. But you have to repeat it. Like, you can't just do it one time and say, okay, I'm fixed, because the neural wiring, it just wants to go back to the old way. It's like, that didn't really work. So you have to, do it quite a few times for the new synapses to kind of fire and wire.
Yeah, and I think it's like takes at least 30 days to develop a habit, and same thing
Yeah.
goes with like about everything. You could keep a diet or whatever for a week or two, but if you actually want to change your eating lifestyle, then it's gonna take you at least like 30 days of commitment for then it to start getting kind of easier and easier, because the beginning is always the hardest. But once you start going, it's just that the energy that you got to the energy that you gave it to start it, it like just keeps it rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And back to one of your points you mentioned when it comes to hiring a coach to beat imposter syndrome, I think that's a big proponent, because the number one thing you should invest not into 401k or stocks. Take that money and invest into a skill or self-help like yourself, or a coach, because you can troubleshoot that. That could give you more return on investment in the future, let's just say, because a coach is taking his years of experience and he lived through that experience and he has a formula how to do it. So why not? It's almost like hacking the system where you're buying time through small little investment. It's just a transfer of energy, all it really is. And that's why that stood out to me too. It's a big proponent because I've invested in like mentors myself, and it's helped tremendously.
Yeah, the number one thing you can invest in is yourself,
Mhm.
for sure.
Yeah, and then you get the most bang for your buck that way too, if you think about it, because if you don't get the outcome that you wanted, you have full control over it. So it's something that you have to change up. Not like if you throw money into stocks, you're relying on someone else's. You could say whatever they do is gonna reflect on how much you make.
Yeah,
So it's your best bet.
it's like playing Sims if you want to take it into like this RPG perspective, and you're like this character in the game. This character could be wasting its time and consuming entertainment and eating junk food, and it'll be functioning whatever, but you can invest in the character and give it some upgrades depending on what kind of game you're playing. Maybe that could be armor, a helmet, but in this case it's creating value that it can't be taken away from you because it's a skill that you're cultivating.
Yeah, yeah. And then like as holistic beings, if you're mentally happy with where you are in life, you broke through your anxieties, your imposter syndrome. That's like one of the pillars of life, and you have to also think about exercise and then nutrition, because it all goes together, right? It's all one. When one is off, it affects everything. So if you're always frustrated, then people are going to be able to see that just by the way you physically look. And same way when you're happy, when you're serious, people could tell you're walking straight, you're making eye contact. That just shows that you're in a better place than somebody that keeps looking down and kind of looks discouraged. So how do you think that all plays together, like diet, nutrition, and then like the mental wellness aspect of things?
Yeah, before you even started to mention that, I was actually going to add that piece. Is like, once you start doing the work on yourself. So let's say your imposter syndrome is, I don't want to show up in the world, because I'm not good enough. Well, once you start doing the work on yourself or working with a coach or, during the journaling or meditations, you may find that, when you were 4 years old, maybe you were a chubby kid and you got made fun of. And so you decided, I don't want to show up. Like, I don't want people to see me. I know that was my story. And so, um, your imposter syndrome may be linked to why you became that chubby kid back in the day and started just eating in order to not be seen, in order to, not kind of be on people's radar. And so once you start doing that, you may realize, well, I don't even really want the junk food. What triggers me when, I want something really sweet? What's going through my mind at that time? And once you hit that point and actually acknowledge it and start working through that, you are going to be healthier, because all of a sudden, literally, I know it sounds like magic, but you're not going to want that junk food. The weight is going to start falling off. You're going to walk more confidently, and you're just going to embody yourself better. And then the imposter syndrome for that level that you're currently at is going to be gone. You'll have beat it.
Yeah.
And it all stemmed from something that happened on the playground back in, 1989.
Right. And it's crazy because there is like answers to these solutions, and there are things you could do to change that aspect of ourselves. And it's almost like, so when I look at life, I look at, you could say, kind of three things, is basically nutrition, your mental state, and then physical exercise. And it's like, if you're trying to better your life, all you have to really do is start in one of those. If you don't exercise and you're trying to maybe better your mental wellness, and you're kind of really stuck, maybe self-help books aren't doing enough, then try to incorporate something else like exercise, because that might be just what you need to help you think things in a more thorough sense. So changing up any of those pillars for like the better, or even changing up your diet, it might help you with mental clarity. Change up any of those three pillars, it's going to positively impact all the other things that are going on in your life, because you're basically showing yourself that you have the initiative and the drive to actually start doing new things. And then you're also telling yourself that, hey, you can actually stay up to date and consistent with these things. So you're almost showing yourself that change is possible. So then your body's like, oh, I could change this. That means I could also possibly change this. And then you become slowly a better person each time. Like you mentioned yesterday, we were talking with Jason, just like building the bricks, like one brick at a time.
And just to add on to your point, I would just say, just lean into your fears. Like whoever's listening, it's almost like a moral compass that's giving you a sense of direction. And the way I see this whole subconscious templates, it's like your soul knows what it wants, but it's being stopped by these templates that the body has created as defense mechanisms. And imposter syndrome is just one of those defense mechanisms not to be seen in the story that you mentioned. So just lean into the fear, because it's going to be rewarding after you conquer it, whatever the skill, task is, or goal.
For your journey with imposter syndrome, do you think mindfulness and meditation was the biggest influencer of you getting out of that state of mind?
Yes, yeah, I do. I really think that, once I had become an expert on how to meditate and the types of meditations that worked for my brain and rewiring, it was like, oh my gosh, like the amount of transformation that I saw in weeks. And it wasn't just me who saw it. I started getting messages on social media, and people were like, you're like a different person. Like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on? And, it was my energy field had completely, changed, and it's still changing. Like, I'm still a work in progress. And so the meditation and mindfulness, huge, 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 huge. And I just wanted to add, one tip that the listeners may want to try if this is something that interests them. I have my coaching clients on week 2 of working with me. I'll share this. I have them do one new thing. So I give them a list of things, but they can choose whatever it will be. But let's say, for instance, I say, I want you to brush your teeth with your opposite hand. So if you're normally right hand dominant, use your left hand every day. Every time you brush your teeth, use that left hand. And it's amazing because what it's going to do is it's going to drop you down into that exact moment. Because think about how much stuff we do and we're not even in the present moment when we do it. It's that time that you drive to work and you're like, I don't even remember driving here. Like, and so doing something with your opposite extremity is going to bring you into the present moment. It's also interesting when my clients come back to me the following week and tell me about their experience. They say it felt so weird. I really had to concentrate, and my right hand kept coming up to take over. And I said, that is how your subconscious programming works. Like anytime you're trying something new, that subconscious is like, man, what are you doing? We don't do this. Like, let's go back to the old way, but keep doing it, because that's when the new neural synapses are being created.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's kind of funny because I'm having like a little epiphany moment during this episode. Is this year I finally committed to starting coaching because I want to do things for myself, like on the side, and take clients and help people, because I think it's so beautiful seeing people transform just like I did myself. But I had imposter syndrome starting the commitment to begin it because I've always told myself that I'm not good enough. I don't have enough experience. I'm too young. I still have so much to learn. I can't help people. And those were the mental blocks that were playing this whole entire time. But just like you said, you have to slow down in that moment to catch that. It's like almost like a video that you're playing 60 frames per second and you're trying to slow it down to 15 frames. So you literally hear your subconscious telling you the wrong shit.
Yes. Yes, that's exactly it. And I want you to know that me, with almost 20 years of nursing experience and being a CRNA and being an author and being all of those things, when it came time to me creating my coaching program, because my coach was actually the one who was like, why aren't you coaching? You need to be coaching. And I was like, same thing. What would I coach about? Who would want to coach with me? I don't have anything that anybody wants to hear. And it's just amazing. Like I said, for each level that you go up, imposter syndrome really does try to overtake you. So I love to hear that you are going to be going into coaching if you haven't started already. I think that's amazing, and definitely for men. Not saying that you're just gonna focus on men, but men need coaches and help. So I think that's great.
That's definitely a generational problem that we've experienced, that all of our fathers from the millennial age passed on, where they don't know how to express themselves well, just to put it in a nutshell. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of things. And how did you get into the supplement industry after like writing books? What inspired you to take that ambition on?
My imposter syndrome.
Such a benefit.
Yeah, so actually I got sick with COVID last January 2021. And just being able to get myself back together, on my own, using my ICU knowledge from all my years of ICU nursing, and just the supplements that I was taking, they were all capsules. And I was like, who wants to take capsules when their chest feels like there's a tractor trailer on it? So I actually, once I was all better, reached out to some manufacturers about a gummy supplement, with elderberry and zinc and vitamin C. And is it the cure? No, but it's beneficial to have a healthy immune system when there's a global pandemic going on, right? So at first I was just solely going to do the immune support gummy, but there was such a great response from that one that I was like, I would like more products. So it's a lot of back and forth with manufacturers and stuff like that. But, I just think that, especially for nurses, like we hold science degrees, we are business people and entrepreneurs with the degrees that we hold and the knowledge that we hold. So I felt that I was limiting myself, to just being in the operating room as a nurse anesthetist. And so when I, was able to get back on my feet after having COVID, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna, do these supplements.
Hmm.
So
How does that process work? The supplemental like manufacturing. Do you just give somebody like a list of ingredients and they put it together for you? Or how does that work?
yeah, so there's a few different ways that it can work. The way that I chose is I knew the ingredients that I wanted in it, and I knew I wanted it to taste good because, in my market research, going to the grocery store or CVS or Walgreens and tasting the other things that were out there, I was like,
Hmm.
why do people put this in their mouth? This is awful. And you've paid $29 for it. So I knew I wanted it to taste good. And so that was kind of like my stipulations when I was going to different manufacturers. And so they would come up with different concoctions, send them to me, and I'd taste it and I'd either say yay or nay.
Hmm.
So if it's something that you wanted to get into, you may have a list that looks different from mine. You may not care as much about the flavor. You may want it to be flavored like strawberries or
Hmm.
whatever. And so you would bring that list to different manufacturers. I've reached out to manufacturers all in the United States, but there are manufacturers in other countries. But I stuck to the United States, and you just kind of work, with your link that they give you within the manufacturer, and go from there.
Okay. Yeah, because there's a little concoction that we take for sleep over here. It's just, I mean, it's nothing crazy. It's magnesium threonate and L-theanine for everyone who wants to make it at home. But well, it's for me at least, and you could speak for yourself, Matthew.
I've
But
tried it before. It's
but
good.
yeah, but I feel
It
like
doesn't taste
it
good.
doesn't taste good. No.
You're losing that point, bro.
Yeah. But see, I'm more of a effect kind of guy. I
Yeah.
would like the objective evidence, before I start to dabble with anything else. But I speak for myself. I think it does improve my sleep quality, not necessarily the amount of hours I sleep, but the quality of sleep that I get. But it also does definitely give me vivid dreams.
Oh,
So yeah,
really?
as a one subject here, and Matt, you could attest, you could speak for yourself. I think it works. So magnesium threonate and L-theanine together.
Well, after the show, I'll give you some
Mm.
manufacturer's information. And if it's something that you want to, work with somebody with and possibly create, it could be the couple nurses sleep aid. I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever.
hey, you never know. Because the thing is I was thinking about
I don't know why you
making.
gave him this idea. We're gonna have like 1,000,000 capsules in this house by the end of the
No.
week.
So listen, this is what happened. We actually had this idea back when we were still in Chicago between our nursing contracts, and I ordered in bulk L-theanine and magnesium threonate, and then I ordered a bunch of capsules, and I didn't realize how long it would take me to actually put this powder in each of these capsules. And I did like 5 or 6 capsules, and I was like, it took me like an hour. I was like, this is not gonna work. Yeah, it was a mission. So
Could outsource that work right away. It's not
Yeah.
worth your time.
yeah. So now we just kind of put it in water and mix it in, and we just drink it. But it tastes horrible. It
Mm.
tastes powder, but it definitely does work.
The vision is there.
Yeah, vision is there.
The handwork is not too much.
Yeah.
I'll hook you up with some manufacturers after.
Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah. So being an author and now having your own supplements and having your own brand, is there anything that you take away from being a CRNA that helps you to build all this or to think of these ideas and to create this?
So I think me being a CRNA and a CRNA woman of color,
Mm,
because we're actually like less than 1% of the
yeah.
profession. I think that's what makes me stick out, my brand,
Mm,
right? And so I actually struggled with that because when it came time to me producing things outside of the CRNA world, I was like, most of my followers on social media, they want to be a CRNA, or they already are in CRNA school. How do I still incorporate me being a CRNA by profession, but market to them something outside of the CRNA realm? So I actually really fought with that last summer because I didn't know, because as I'm pulling away from nursing and healthcare and being a CRNA and going the business route, it was kind of like a murky territory for me. So I will say being a CRNA has helped me become the social media
Mm.
uh, person or face to follow. And as I'm going more the business route, I am trying more to keep the nursing science part of who I am, but also show y'all outside of being a CRNA, this is the business side of
Mm.
me. So I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it makes sense. It makes sense. Like, because like when somebody asked me that question before, like, hey, how does being a nurse, impact all the other things that you're doing, or how can I help you? If I get those kind of questions, then um, like the way I see things is, for somebody that is a nurse or in a healthcare profession and is trying to do a little bit more and trying to maybe pursue their dreams in another sense, or trying to start a new project, and their kind of excuses that, hey, I'm just a nurse, there's
It's a label.
nothing, it's a label, yeah, there's nothing that I know how to do or could take from nursing and from healthcare to help me become or do this thing that I want to do. And that's just like a super false belief, and also probably goes into imposter syndrome, because
Yeah.
the fact that you're a nurse, your stress tolerance is already super high. So if you can't figure out any other benefits of nursing that you could bring into these other parts of your life, just at least take that into account, that your ability to handle stress and to be calm in certain pressure based situations is a lot higher than anybody in society. So just having that already sets you up for success, because even though you might not be sure that what you want to do on the side maybe isn't what you want to do 100%, but you're at least going to try it, you're at least going to have that resilience and that drive to push through it, because your stress tolerance is going to be super high, so you're going to maintain it. And the one key to success is maintaining that level of work ethic and sticking to what you want to do throughout time. That's when you get recognized. That's how you build things. Nothing's ever built in 1 year. You gotta stay with it for 5, 6, 7 years. Like nursing school alone took us 2 years plus another 2 years of prereqs.
4 years. Yep.
That's just 4 years of school just to be a nurse. So imagine how long it takes you to achieve your dreams. In nursing school isn't really, it's not even a dream. It's more of like like a daydream, you could say.
Slow it down, young grasshopper.
Yeah.
That's what I got to tell myself too, because I have that impatience sometimes where I want. We get too fixated on the goal instead of enjoying the
outcomes.
journey, and
Yeah.
success is the actual journey and learning and failing and experience and etc. So
Yeah, it's like almost time could be like a double-edged sword. It could either push you to do a project on time, or it could be a negative because you're always stressed about that time and you're not thinking as creatively or as full-minded, you could say, because you're always, or there's always some percentage of your brain always thinking about, hey, deadline. That's why I'm always chilling in life. That's why you guys stay chilling. That's why we're in San Diego, baby. Where it's always nice. Rain yesterday, today's a whole different day.
Yep.
Crystal, where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at the Crystal Grant. You can find me on my website at thecrystalgrant.com. TikTok, I think I'm the Crystal Grant. Just type in the Crystal Grant. I should pop up. And Facebook, same, the Crystal Grant. And you can find my gummies on superscriptwellness.com or walmart.com. And you can find my Super CRNA series and my Acceptance Granted book on amazon.com. So I'm everywhere.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, everybody. Really appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for all your knowledge.